With severe weather tearing through much of the eastern part of the country, bringing with it over 70 mile-an-hour wind gusts, a few tornadoes, and bringing power outages to millions. Could we expect to see more of this moving forward? And I'm also going to be taking a look and seeing if there's any tropical storm activity in the Atlantic and in the Pacific. I'll be breaking that all down coming up in this video. Howdy y'all, welcome back, and it looks like we're going to be dealing with another busy day for severe weather, as there has been an enhanced risk issued over here by Colorado and parts of Nebraska with a slight risk from right here in the yellow, and that also includes areas from Louisiana on over into Georgia. Now there is just a 5% chance for tornadoes just over here in the enhanced risk zone from Colorado up into Nebraska with a 2% chance around that in the green. Now if you live over here in the slight risk zones from Louisiana on down into Georgia, now y'all are not under the tornado threat today, but y'all are under the damaging wind and large hail threat today, as that is primary threats today over here in the deep south. But if you live over here in parts of Colorado and Nebraska, y'all are under the 15% hatch area for damaging winds and a 30% hatch area for large hail today. So make sure you tie down anything you do not want blown around today, and make sure you bring in anything in you do not want damage from hail. As we push off into hump day, we have another slight risk, which includes parts of northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, much of Missouri, northern Arkansas, Oklahoma, and parts of Kansas is included in that as well, with the marginal risk in the dark green. Now, all hazards are possible tomorrow, with a 5% chance for tornadoes over here in parts of northern Arkansas and southern Missouri, with a 2% chance right here in the green. As far as damaging wind threat goes, it's a 50% chance here in the yellow and a 5% chance in the red. And as far as large hail threat goes, that's the smallest threat of the three, as there is a 5% chance over here in the red, which includes Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas. And then as we push off into Thursday, there's just a marginal risk for severe weather. This includes states from Alabama on up into Virginia and from Nebraska on up into the Dakotas. So now that we know the main risks for the next 3 days, let's go and take a look at the time frames and when you could expect the worst from the severe weather. And to take a look at the time frames, we're going to take a look at the HRRR model. Keep in mind that date and time is up here if you want to keep track. This is in Eastern time as well. We're going to focus on the enhanced risk zone first, and then we're going to focus on the deep south to see how strong the winds could be for y'all. As we push it forward, it looks like not much is going to be happening up until right around 5, 6 o'clock when some severe weather could be starting to get into the enhanced risk zone. And it's going to be starting to exit by right around 10 o'clock. And then it's going to turn mainly into a flooding threat as we head into the overnight hours, as there is a slight risk for excessive rainfall. So make sure if you're out on the roads, turn around, do not drown. If you live in a low-lying area, just please be aware of that as well. And keep in mind, there is a pretty significant chance for tornadoes today within this zone. And it looks like by right around 8 o'clock, it looks like that's when the greatest chance of seeing a tornado could be. But to take a look at this, we're going to take a look at the significant tornadic parameters first. Then we'll take a look at how strong the winds could be. First, let's take a look at where the greatest chance of seeing a tornado could pop up at. And it does look like right around 8, 9 o'clock is the greatest chance of possibly seeing a tornado. And you see it's 0.8 out of 10 on the tornadic scale. And really to break this down further, we're going to take a look at a sounding. And as we can see on this sounding, it looks like it's going to be a pretty favorable environment, as we are going to be dealing with some upper 70 degree temperatures with some low 60 degree dew points. We have a little bit of a dry slot out there in the mid levels of the atmosphere. Basically what that means is basically it's a clearing in the atmosphere, brings the sun out, destabilizes the atmosphere, and you don't want to see that on a severe weather day, as it does make the environment worse when it comes to severe weather. We have a little bit of a capping inversion, so it looks like tornadic development could be suppressed today, but we do have some high Cape values at right around 3,000 joules per kilogram. And basically what that is thunderstorm fuel, and that's what's mainly going to break the cap in the atmosphere. You get some strong storms out there, and then that's going to bring some tornadoes. We have a little bit of wind shear out there too, some curvature over here in the photograph. It definitely looks like a pretty favorable environment for severe weather, including tornadoes. And once that cap breaks though, we definitely can see some really nasty storms today. So make sure you know your severe weather action plan, just in case that tornado warning does go off. And at least have a way to get a warning as well. Make sure you go get a weather radio if you do not have one. Turn all alerts on those phones. I know they are annoying, I get it. But make sure those are on. And make sure you know where to go when that tornado warning goes off too. Even though if it's a radar indicated tornado, you should take shelter anyways. Make sure you take shelter in a basement, closet, storm shelter, interior room without windows. Just make sure you hunker down and never fear a shelter is near. Now let's go and take a look at what kind of winds we could expect today, as that is really the primary threat. other than large hail. And as we can see, right around 8 o'clock, we're going to be dealing with around 35 knot winds. So it don't look like anything like yesterday's severe weather event where we were dealing with over 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts over by Tennessee. And that brought multiple trees down too in that area, where over a 100-year-old oak tree fell down near Knoxville. So it looks like we could be dealing with 35 knot winds with the wind speeds gusting over 20 to 30 mile an hour. So definitely, if you live within the enhanced risk zone today, I would expect the worst and severe weather to last all the way from 5 o'clock through right around 10 o'clock, and then that's when it's going to start to wind down. And that's also when the big hail threat's going to come into play as well. Now let's focus over here in the deep south for a minute. See what the time frames are for y'all. According to the HRRR model, it looks like we could expect severe weather through the early morning hours over there by Louisiana, Mississippi, and gaining strength over Alabama right around 3 o'clock before it starts to taper off by right around 8 o'clock. Now keep in mind, this is mainly going to be a damaging wind threat, and a small hail threat is not going to be rolled out as well. As we can see, just southeast of Alabama, as we can see, we're going to be dealing with over 50 knot winds out there. It's around 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts. So definitely it looks like we could be dealing with the higher wind gusts over here compared to over by Nebraska and Wyoming. But still, regardless, to tie down anything you do not want blown around today, and make sure you put anything up you don't want damage from hail. And tornado threat, I would expect, if you live within the enhanced risk zone today, I would expect that to last from right around 5 o'clock through right around 10 o'clock. So now let's go ahead and focus our attention to Hump Day's severe weather threats, which is mainly over here in parts of the Midwest area. We're going to continue to look at the HRRR model. Now keep in mind, tomorrow all hazards are going to be possible, including tornadoes, as there is a 5% chance over here in parts of Arkansas and Missouri. Now it looks like we're going to be dealing with some non-severe showers and thunderstorms through the early morning hours on Hump Day, before we're going to be dealing with some pretty significant severe weather through the late afternoon into the early evening hours of Hump Day, as there is a 5% chance for tornadoes spanning from southern Missouri into northern Arkansas. Now I would expect the time frames for the tornadic threat to happen from right around 9 o'clock through right around 3 o'clock in the morning is when I would be on guard for any tornadoes to happen. As we can see on the significant tornadic parameters, at right around 9-10 o'clock is when I would expect the greatest chance of seeing a tornado could possibly be. But again, I would still be on high alert from right around 9 o'clock through 3 o'clock in the morning, as it looks like we're going to be dealing with a 2.3 out of 10 on the tornadic scale. Now, I would not be surprised if they do issue an enhanced risk for tomorrow. As we look at a sounding, we can see that we do have a favorable atmosphere tomorrow, as we do have some low 80-degree temperatures with low 70-degree dew points. We have a little bit of a capping inversion, but high cape, so it looks like that cap could possibly break tomorrow. Not much of a dry slot in the atmosphere, but definitely a lot of cape, a lot of instability and moisture in the atmosphere tomorrow. A lot of wind shear as well, as we do have a 4.3 on the Enhanced Velocity Index and a 225 on the Storm Relative Velocity Index. So definitely the kinematics and thermodynamics are there, but we do have a little bit of a capping inversion, and once that breaks, then we could see a potential severe weather outbreak tomorrow, including tornadoes. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what kind of wind gusts we could expect tomorrow, as that is going to be the primary threat within the whole slight risk area. And it looks like the highest wind gusts could be possible over western Tennessee tomorrow, as we could be dealing with upwards of almost 50 knot winds tomorrow within the whole zone. So definitely, again, just like today, just tie down anything you do not want blown around, and make sure you bring anything inside you don't want damage from hail. And there's also a flooding threat tomorrow as well within this whole zone. Again, if you live in a low-lying area, please be aware of that. Turn around and do not drown if you're out on the roads and see a flooded roadway. Then we can push off into Thursday, where there is a marginal risk for severe weather. And to take a look at that, we're going to take a look at the NAM 3-kilometer model. We're going to focus over here from Alabama on up into Virginia first. Now keep in mind, this is over 3 days out. Anything can and will change by then. According to the NAM 3-kilometer model, it looks like could be dealing with some showers and thunderstorms in northern Alabama and over here in South Carolina through the early afternoon hours on Thursday before it starts to taper off. And now we focus over here from Nebraska on up into the Dakotas. Now we do not know what the hazards are going to be just yet for Thursday, but please stay tuned to my little Twitter page. I'll link that description below, and make sure you subscribe as well if you want to see more forecast videos like this. We do forecast videos like this every Tuesday, or anytime there is any extreme weather. Now, it looks like on Thursday, the furthest it goes out is to 8 o'clock, so it looks like we could be dealing with some severe weather from northern Nebraska up into the Dakotas through the early evening into overnight hours on Thursday up there. And if you live down here in the southeast part of the country on Thursday, I would expect the worst severe weather on Thursday happen through the early afternoon hours from right around 11 o'clock through right around 3 o'clock is when I would expect the worst for that. So now that we know the risks and the time frames for the severe weather for the next 3 days, let's go and take a look at what kind of hurricanes and tropical storms we could be dealing with in the Atlantic and in the Pacific. Now, as we look at the tropics, we can see that over here in the Pacific, we have a tropical storm chance, which is a 40% chance over here, just west of Mexico. Show y'all the wording here. Y'all can pause the video anytime and read this if you want to. Looks like this will potentially become a tropical storm, and it looks like Dora has turned into a Category 4 hurricane, as it turns just 581 miles due south of Hawaii. It looks like it's going to start to die off and just churn out there in the Pacific by the 12th. Getting pretty active out there in the Pacific, but out here in the Atlantic, it's not very active at all, which that was predicted. If y'all watched the hurricane forecast video, y'all saw that we'll have more of the recurve pattern here in the Atlantic due to the El Nino pattern down here in the Pacific, which means hotter waters, more hurricanes, but a lot more wind shear, which means hurricanes ain't going to affect the homeland any, and there'll be more hurricanes out here due to the hot waters and less wind shear. So as we can see, we are definitely dealing with that, and it looks like over here in Asia, it looks like we have Tropical Storm Lan, which is going to turn into a typhoon as it heads into Japan, and it looks like Tropical Storm Kahunan is going to turn into Asia and die down into a tropical depression by the 11th. So it definitely looks like it's pretty active out there, and I want to show y'all what Hurricane Dora looks like on the simulated radar here. And look at that beast. We have definitely a big, gigantic hurricane forming out there, and you can see it's gaining strength before it starts to die down by the 12th. We are dealing with over 130 mile an hour winds with 160 mile an hour wind gusts. So Dora is going to be exploring the Pacific Ocean, it looks like. So now that we know what kind of tropical storms we're going to be dealing with, hurricanes and typhoons, and we know the severe weather risks for the next 3 days, let's go and take a look at what we could expect as we head into the middle and end of August. And to take a look at what we could expect as we head towards the middle of August, we'll take a look at the 5 number behind anomalies. Blues represent the bad weather and troughing, and the reds represent the good weather and ridging. And if y'all remember from the last video, we were talking about this major heat wave that's taken over much of the country, and that we could possibly come into a cool and stormy pattern. And it looks like we're coming into this little troughing pattern. As we push this forward, it looks like this troughing pattern is going to be setting in for quite some time before a ridge is going to be setting in by the 13th. And this could cause problems from the 13th through the 15th. Looks like a big low pressure system is going to be setting in over Wisconsin, and that could cause severe weather through the 13th to the 15th, and even after that as well. Definitely looks like a stormy pattern is coming up. But to look at this, we're going to look at the simulated radar, where we know we got severe weather happening for the next 3 days at the least, bringing flooding. And after that, it looks like we're going to be dealing with some dry conditions out west, with some soggy conditions for the Midwest and eastern part of the country. As we push this to the 13th, we can see that we're going to be dealing with some stormy conditions over here in the Dakotas and over here by Minnesota, parts of Iowa. And that's going to push southeastward into the Ohio Valley by the 14th before it starts to exit into the northeast and bring some flooding conditions to the northeast. And then we're going to be dealing with some more showers and thunderstorms by the 16th. And we're still going to remain dry out west as well. Now, let's take a look at what kind of temperatures we could expect, as we are going to be dealing with this troughing pattern, which is going to be taking over much of the country. It looks like we're coming into a below average pattern before we're coming into an above average pattern by the middle of the month. And this is what's going to bring those stormy conditions from the 13th to the 15th. Looks like we're going to remain below average over here, with above average temperatures out west. And it looks like we're going to come into a way below average temperature pattern as we head into the middle of August. And according to the Climate Prediction Center, it's in agreement with that, as most of the middle part of the country is going to be dealing with below average temperatures, while the rest of the country is going to be dealing with near normal or above average temperatures. Now, the next 8 to 14 days is about the same, with more states under the above average temperature pattern due to that major ridging pattern going to be setting up. As we look at the 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, it looks like much of the western part of the country is going to be dry, while the eastern part of the country is going to be above average. Now, the next 8 to 14 days looks just about the same, with above average precip for the eastern part of the country, near normal for the middle part, and below average out here in the western part, except for down here in California, parts of southwestern Arizona. So it looks like a stormy pattern is coming up, as a major troughing pattern is going to be setting in for much of the country, and this major ridge, so that's going to be coming up north. That's going to cause some major problems. If you live within the risk areas for the next 3 days, just please remain weather aware. And don't look like any hurricanes are going to affect the homeland any. We just have Hurricane Dora out there. That's not going to affect anybody. And we have Typhoon that's going to slam into Japan. But that's about it. If you liked the video, please hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe down below. Feedback is always appreciated. I appreciate every single one of y'all for watching. And until next time, never stop forecasting.